Dear younger me, where do I start? If I could tell you everything that I have learned so far, then you could be.
Hi everybody, welcome to Remnant Pearls. Tonight is going to be a testimony and a personal story from Rachel. I don't know what Rachel is going to share. Again, nothing is ever scripted. We're just here to support her and to listen to her. So I just ask that you not be judgmental as well and be encouraging with some comments, because when somebody opens up their life, sometimes it's hard, and then afterwards the enemy always fights you. So give her some encouraging comments to help her after she shares her story. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Miss Rachel.
All right, thank you. All right, so I really like the song. Who sings it? Dear Younger Me. Mercy Me. Thank you. I was like, I can't remember. I really like the song Dear Younger Me because it just makes me think back on like what I would tell myself. And I was thinking earlier what I would tell myself, and I came to a lot of things I would have told myself, but overall I would have told myself to lead with your heart and not your pain. Because I did that my entire childhood and even into early adulthood. And I think finally now at 29 years old, I'm starting to release that and starting to learn how to forgive and move on from people that have hurt me and things that I've done and experienced. I found some verses that really spoke to me about this whole thing I was going to talk about. In Luke 6:27 through 28, but I say unto you which hear, love your enemies, do good to them which hate you, bless them that curse you, and pray for them which despitefully use you. And I felt like my whole life I was used, and I don't want to say abused, but that's how I felt, because I was born into a broken family, and my mother lost custody of me by the time I was 1. So my father kept me, and my sister and her mother helped raise me a lot because my dad wanted to still go out and drink and do things, and he would still occasionally take me with him, which I'll never understand that. But growing up, I felt really worthless, and I felt really like I didn't belong anywhere, and I still really struggle with that. Even at 29, I still struggle with that. And I acted a lot on my pain, like I said. So whenever I was growing up as a kid, I really didn't have I had friends, but I really couldn't get close to anybody. I couldn't really connect with people. I didn't feel like anybody understood me. They could say they loved me and cared about me, but the person I was seeking was my mom. And I never got that. And it didn't matter if it was my best friend's mom, because she did wonders for me. There were so many people that stepped in and tried, but I was so hard-headed and leading with my pain, like I said, that I didn't see that they were trying to really help me. And I think that comes a lot with what my dad put me through, because he emotionally and mentally, and sometimes he was physical with me. And growing up, I didn't get to tell a lot of people that, because I feel like everybody thought I was dramatic and just making it a thing. So I felt a lot of resentment for everybody. So I was just angry. I was just really angry. And it led me to grow up as a teenager, and I made a lot of wrong choices, and I started dating early on, and the boyfriend that I had at 14, I really thought that I wanted to just be married to one person and only be with one person my whole life. So I had this idea going into that relationship, and it was completely messed around with, and it was not at all ideal what was going to happen. And I had to accept that, and it took me a really long time. And I also know we were only 14. That's a lot of stuff to really think about at 14, but I also raised myself, and I had to grow up all the time. Like, I was always doing my own thing. Like, I was my own adult. I was my own, like, I didn't get somebody saying, well, you don't make that choice, you don't make that choice. I just had to learn from doing. And my dad was very hard on me, always calling me names and always putting me down. And he had thrown things at me, and just so many just situations that I'm not even going to go into that just really hurt me. And after I had my first boyfriend, I actually lost my virginity to him. Getting personal now.
That's all right.
And
everybody has a story.
I felt like I really lost myself, and I gave all of myself to that. And then by the time that I was older,
It's all right. Take your time.
and I turned 16, I had started to really drink, and I had started to really party with my friends, and I just really didn't care. I always felt worthless, so it didn't matter. I didn't care if I hurt anybody. I didn't care if I hurt myself. So it led me to make really reckless decisions. Like, I drove drunk a couple of times. Like, I just made really stupid decisions that could have caused so many people their lives, anything, and I have to live with all that just because I was hurting and I didn't know how.
You were being led by pain.
Was. And I just remember always seeking men's approval because I don't think I got that from my dad. And I always wanted men's approval. So I would have sex with people. I didn't have any care in the world until I got older and I realized what soul ties were. And that was a really hard emotional thing for me to go through and break because I felt really dirty and I felt really disgusting just as a person. I can't even imagine how I became the person that I was and how I'd ever been that person back then. But I began to, I totally lost my train of thought.
It's okay.
At 19, I became a single mom, and I raised my son up until he was like 2 by myself until I met my future husband, my now husband. And in the midst of all that, whenever I was 22, I lost my dad. And that was very traumatic as with anybody, but I was the one that found him in the room, and I had to try to do CPR. And I hated myself more because I didn't successfully help him. And I also hated the fact that he was leaving me, but I was also almost peaceful because I could finally break free of feeling worthless and just feeling all that stress and always trying to be for him and not myself. And once he passed away, I kind of just made another few series of bad decisions, but they finally led up to me going to college and finishing. And then I met my husband, and we had a child and then got married. And it didn't really stop there. I still continued to drink here and there, but I started to feed into that old demon that I had whenever my husband and I were first married, and I would drink all the time just to deal with our problems. And I wasn't actually facing what was wrong within me, and what was wrong within him, he was not facing. So it caused a lot of stress in our marriage. And that's what I want like younger girls to realize. Like, whenever you go out and you have sex or you do anything, like, you're going to have a lot of pain whenever you get older, and you don't realize it then, but you will. And I don't know if you're going to be like me, but I know that I went through so much. I was just always distraught, and I hated myself. And I didn't feel worthy. I felt disgusting and dirty, and nobody would want me. I didn't feel loved. I just basically hated myself. So I just want people to think about their decisions that they're making as a young child, even teenager, how it's going to affect you whenever you get older, because it does. And now, despite all that stuff, I finished school, I got married, had another child, and then my husband and I, we have been on the up and up, basically, because I have been coming to church, and I have been really seeking God more and more. And I'm trying to break that bondage that I have of seeking others' approval, because I still always have that, and I still have my moments where I'm really down, and I feel really I hate myself, and I just think about every wrong thing I've ever done, and that's not serving anybody any purpose. And I know that, but it's really hard for me mentally to get out of that. And I've talked to these ladies about it plenty of times. I've messaged them and be like, oh, I'm feeling like ashamed, and I'm feeling awful, and they'll support me and help me feel better. But mainly it's my husband has been a really big help with me, because he talks to me and he really opens me up, and he actually understands me better than anybody I've ever known. And he's allowed me to be both a bad person and a good person, if that makes sense. Like, he's allowed me to be in both situations and still loved me unconditionally. And he has always just worked on himself and working on bettering our marriage along with me. And I just think that's great. And I don't credit just him. I think it's all God, because I keep praying for that. I keep reading my Bible about how to strengthen marriage and how to make your family just be happy and healthy. And that's what I've always wanted, a healthy, whole family. I came from a broken family. You don't want to create one after you came from that. So that's really all I have like to share.
Well, God love you.
That is a testimony, though, where you're at now.
Yeah.
You can talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
And that you see what the problem was, because like you said, you were being guided by your pain. And I think a lot of people do that when you feel unwanted, you feel worthless. You're like, why even care about school? Why even care about the way I look or the way I act? Why not just be reckless my whole life because I'm nothing?
Right.
And so you go out and you make a lot of bad choices, which, you know, I wasn't raised that way. I was raised in a loving home, but I still went through some traumatic things that caused me to make stupid decisions. And, you know, I will give my testimony on another time, but I'm sure we all can say that, you know.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Sam.
No, I was just gonna say, I think it's really commendable that you can, you know, sit in front of this camera and just share that. Like, it's really hard, and sometimes I think it's harder to relive moments because in the moment you're not always, like I said, you're trying to find a way to be numb to your situation. So when you actually relive it and you're finding yourself confronting those feelings, sometimes you end up feeling things that you knew you felt then, but you wouldn't let them out. And you know, just being able to voice that and get that off of you, you know, I think is just another way to kind of help to let God heal you. And like you said, you know, you seeking Him, I don't know, I just think that's so, I didn't know you went through half of those things, you know what I mean? And so to just hear them, I just, you know, I'm there for you, girl. Like, I support you.
Thank you.
You know, I don't know where completely I was going with that, but I mean, I support you, and I know that that's hard, and you know, we're all here for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew some, but I didn't know the extent until I think you got up at church one time and said some things, because you said your son was even kind of shocked when you remember what I'm talking about. And I remember was like, how did I not know this? But it's not something that you just, you know, I mean, when I seen you were always happy, Rachel, because it was always at club acts, and you know, I never seen down Rachel.
I was happy there. I
Right.
got away from everything.
Right. But I mean,
That
you know,
was
I
one of my
never.
favorite places.
Right. I mean, I don't think we ever sat down and had that conversation. And I feel bad because I was your youth leader. I don't know if you were ever in my cabin at youth camp, but I mean, that's kind of where we always got a little bit more personal, was in our cabin, and a lot of girls opened up, and I would be like, I did not know you were experiencing this, and so I got to know a lot of the girls, but I don't think I did ever have you or you.
No.
Or
I,
you.
No.
Did I?
In a cabin, no.
I was gonna say
I
I
don't
was
think
with you for a minute.
Yeah.
At camp, yes, not in a cabin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I had any of you at camp, but that's when I always would got, you know, kind of backgrounds on people a little, because I don't know, something about camp made everybody open up, you
Opens
know?
up.
So,
They are different people. It's a good time.
And I was very like reserved back then. Like I was always like really, I would almost play like ditzy and like really bubbly because I didn't know.
it was your mask.
I didn't know who I was though. Like I didn't understand what was really going on in my life. And what you kind of hit on, like I had talked about in church, like I didn't learn that. I learned I had an older brother from my mom's side whenever I was 14, so I felt betrayed right there because nobody had really like spoke to me about that.
Yeah.
And then I found out that there were numerous CPS cases open with my mom before I was taken out of her custody with me and my other brother and sister. And those things really made me feel betrayed by my dad, because I remember always going to him like, what's my mom's name? What is she like? And he would just kind of brush it off and never
would tell you.
He would just never ever open up. And it was like, is he not opening up because he doesn't want to? Or is it
Do you think he
because-
just still loved her and wanted to protect her, maybe?
Well, I found out that they were in contact my whole life, and that hurt me the most because this woman that I never met knew my whole life. And I felt like I didn't get to tell her things, like she already knew them, and I felt so hurt. Like, how could he have done that to me? Is what I went
Like
through.
that
a
should have
lot.
been your job to kind of communicate things to your mom. Yeah.
And I came to the conclusion finally, like I went through a lot of like I said, I really struggled with forgiveness and letting things go, and I'm getting better. But I really went through a time where I was like, how could he do that? Why wouldn't he just open up to me and all those things? And then I realized that he was just doing the best he could, because I also believe that even though I've done bad things, I don't believe that people are bad people just because they do bad things. And I know you guys are all on that same page too, because we believe in Jesus and redemption and things. But I believe that hurt people, and I know that my dad was really hurting, and I know it wasn't my fault, and that was something I really had to work on, that it was not my fault. and
Right.
I always felt
Absolutely.
at fault.
Yeah.
And that was the problem. I carried that like a scarlet letter my whole entire life.
And I've heard that with a lot of like abusive kids, or
Mhm.
they always thought that was their fault. Like if I just do this for mommy, she's not gonna hit me, or if I do this, and so they were always. And I just think that would be such a hard to have to think that way as a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
instead of just bopping in the house and doing being a
Yeah.
kid, having to stop and think, I don't want to tick mom or dad off, or I want to do this. I'm gonna do this so mom doesn't come home and yell at me tonight. And I've heard that because I watch a lot of crime stuff and things about children, and my heart goes out to that because I'm like, I couldn't imagine that being my mindset as a kid. Because as a kid, you should just be a kid. You don't care about nothing.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah, my daughter came, she had her first in-person school day today, and she said that she always calls this girl her enemy. I don't remember her name. She used to bully her.
enemy?
Yeah, she calls her enemy because she bullies Nevaeh.
Mm.
And she said, I seen somebody I really hate today. And I say, you don't hate her. And she's like, I just dislike her. And at the same time, like, I think we might have mentioned it before, whether here or, just casually, those are the people that you want to reach out to, because as much as they're going to act like they don't, like you walk by and say hi, they're going to act like they don't care, but they'll remember that.
Yeah,
Those are the
they
people
will.
that need it
They
the
will.
most. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was a
That's
very
all the
hard
time.
person to even try to talk to. Like I had my close friends, but I really didn't open up to them fully. Like, and I almost felt like I couldn't really open up to anybody because it almost to me seemed like everybody thought I was making it up.
Mhm.
And that it wasn't as bad as it was. And then I
Well, they were
actually,
kids and they don't understand, and you don't
well, even
understand.
in adulthood.
Oh, well.
Even in adulthood, like I haven't felt like I could really confide in people. And then I went through therapy earlier this year. I finished my last sessions earlier this year, and she actually that was my breaking moment, like my breakthrough. Thank you.
Right.
And she looked at me and she goes, "It's not your fault." And I was like, I just wanted to hear that my whole life. Like, and nobody ever, I just felt nobody believed me.
Yeah.
And if nobody could believe me, then I couldn't believe me. And I couldn't believe in myself.
And I told you guys about the story about the girl Grace brought home from the bus.
Yes.
That
Yes.
had, same thing. I mean, this girl was just mean to Grace from day one on volleyball. I mean, even to the point where she kind of smacked Grace in the face. And just mean to her, like, every time she'd Grace would miss a ball or not make a play, it was like, oh my God, just really down on Grace. And I just told Grace, I said, Grace, she probably has a bad home life. And this is her pain. She's acting out in her pain. And to come to find out, she, her mom's never around, she stays with her dad. And I think her dad goes to work really early. So she has to get up her siblings, and then she has to get herself ready, make sure they're up and ready before she can, because, our middle school got on the bus before the elementary.
Right.
So the elementary kids, she's got to make sure they're ready to go and they're watching for the bus when she leaves. And that's a lot to put on a
That's
child.
hard.
That's like being a mom.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a lot of things. And I always tell my kids that. I'm like, you don't know what people deal with at home.
Yep.
And I remember, my parents telling me that when I was a child. And so I just always told that to my kids. Like, you don't know what somebody has to go home to.
Yep.
And that's what I work on with my kids a lot, because they'll come home and say, well, so-and-so said this. And I'm like, well, you don't understand what they're going through. The best thing you can do is be kind. Now, don't let them walk all over you.
Right.
I'm not saying that. There's good ways to handle it. But
And some kids are just
they're
out of control. I
Yeah.
mean, they don't have any reason, but they probably didn't have any discipline or any boundaries,
Yeah.
and they're just mean
Right.
kids. And there are
Right.
those kids too.
And that's what also happened with me. I didn't know boundaries. Like I had no, I knew, but I didn't know.
Didn't
if that
care.
makes sense.
Didn't care.
I did care, but it was almost like I was doing it for attention too.
Right.
So it was a catch-22 no matter what way I went.
Yeah.
Either
Yeah.
way, I would get the same attention, or I wouldn't get any attention if I went the right way, it seemed like. So,
Yeah.
and then also I forgot to add, whenever I was 6, I was in my room with one of my, I can't remember who it was, somebody my sister knew, and their son was with us at my dad's apartment, and this was my first sexual thing that ever happened to me, and the kid was only 5 or so it's not like they knew what they were doing, but they were, I don't even want to say molested or anything, because I don't really think that's what it was, but it was a very inappropriate way of being with a little kid. And that really messed me up because I really thought that's kind of, I don't even know how to word it. Like that was all I was worth almost, because that stuck with me. Like I can still remember being 6 and being in my room and everything that happened. I can remember it to a T. And then by the time I was 14 and I had my first boyfriend, I think that's why I was so invested into that and expected so much and got so hurt by it. But since I lost my virginity to him, that was all I saw was my worth.
Right.
So it was just like a period of thing, or not a period, like a, I can't even think of the word, I'm having brain freezes. Like it was like a series of things that led up to how I was reacting and how I was handling things. I was always reacting and not acting beforehand. Like I wasn't being proactive, I was reacting. So and I had to really learn about how to be healthy and how to handle my emotions, and better late than never, but
And being a youth leader, I've heard a lot of girls share that story, and one of the main things that they did talk about was they didn't have daddy in the house, or they didn't have daddy's attention ever, and so they did reach out to boys for that void that they didn't have. And so I think a lot of young ladies, if you are watching and you feel that way, please don't let that be how you react, because there are consequences, and then you do feel terrible, you know, because when you get older, you realize that's not the attention that you're wanting, you know what I mean? But you think at the time, and I always think, you know, why couldn't we be born with the wisdom and not have to get it later, because, you know, you make so many, you know, mistakes. But in saying that, you know, as bad as what you went through, it is also, I don't want to say it's good, because it's not good for you to ever go through anything like that, but you are going to be able to use what the devil meant for bad to turn around for good for God, because there are a lot of people out there who deal with that, who are home being abused, if it's physical, sexual, emotional, that need to hear your testimony. So don't feel ashamed about what you're sharing. I know one of the first times I ever shared anything personal, it just messed with me that whole week, until I finally was like, you know what, I don't care, because if what I'm sharing helped anybody, then I'm okay with it. And I remember I shared it at Club Acts, and I remember the following Friday, she wasn't a youth girl, she had come, we used to have a bus, we pick up kids, and she came right to me, and she said, I didn't get to talk to you last week, but what you said really hit home. I didn't even know this girl. And so I felt so much better knowing that what I shared made contact with somebody. So just know that what you're sharing is affecting us three, and there's going to be somebody, if it's one person, that is going to watch this and say, I'm in her situation right now, and I might be that 14-year-old girl or that 6-year-old girl, or even a married woman who has all these feelings. And how are you where you're at now? How are you, you know, kind of give us a little bit of idea of how are you sitting here now and you're not crazy? Because I think somebody needs to hear, like, how do you stay sane without the devil tormenting you?
And without alcohol or anything
Without
like
alcohol.
that. And
Without that outlet that you used to use.
I think a lot of it is because I quit smoking cigarettes. I have quit, I haven't all the way quit drinking. I am working on that, but I don't do it like to numb pain anymore. I would do it more for fun, if anything. But I think that my husband and I have kind of done this together, where I'm actually more open, and I have literally told him everything. And I think that makes it so much easier for me to feel loved and feel like I'm worthy of anything, because he actually listens to me. And I think you just need a person that will listen to you and not judge you, and get friends that are not whispering behind your back. Like that's just going to torment too, because not that my friends do that, but I'm just saying, like, I know in situations I've been in the past, if I would confide in somebody, they would go and tell the other person, and then the whole school would know or something. And that hurts too. That will always hurt anybody. So I just think that you need to confide in a certain person, and then find your own space, because I have had to find, like, I don't want to say quiet space, but I have kids, so it's quiet space. I found my quiet space, and I've tried, like, hobbies, and I've been doing gardening, and I come here and do dance, and I do this now, and I talk to them, and I listen to music, and there's just a lot of other ways that I can let out my pain and my anger, and I've also released a lot of it to God so far, and there's still some that I hold on to, I won't lie. I think that it's going to take me a while, and I'm going to have to really dig deep until I can really get to that point, but I think that just leaving it to God is the major thing, and always keeping your family. I mean, having a family is so important too, and if you don't have a family, again, go back with a friend, go back with anybody that really you can be with that means something to you and you mean something to them and things. So
That's good. Good. Yeah, I think God is most important, you know, out of all of those things, because he really knows what's going on in your mind and in your heart at all times, you know, where we only know what you share, but like you said, there's some things you still hold on to and maybe you haven't shared, but God knows those deep, dark crevices in your heart, and you got to learn to, you know, let it go, and you are, you know, let it go and replace it with other things. And I think this is helping you grow. You know, you teach kids class, we do dance, and just stepping up and helping, you know, anytime I ask for help, you know, but I think getting involved is a huge thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Getting
even
involved in
writing
something.
it down, like writing it down.
See, I
and
like to
ripping it
journal.
up,
I
ripping
journal on
it
my
up
phone
or
now,
something,
but
like write down something you hate about yourself or somebody else, and then just rip it up and just, it's metaphorically saying like, hey, it's gone, like just leave it. And that's hard. I know that is really hard.
I had to do that because the one thing I had to work on was my mouth. And so I started writing my anger out, you know, like things that I wanted to say that I don't need to say, and things that I wanted to do that I don't need to do, you know, and I would just how I felt. And then a couple of days later, you know, once I felt good and I felt, you
Clear
know,
headspace.
God kind of woke me up a little bit, I would go back and read it and be like so thankful that I didn't say those things. I'd be like, oh, I'm so glad I didn't say that to my husband or my children or whoever it was that had frustrated me. So that was how I kind of let my anger out or whatever. And dance
really
is my
good.
thing.
That's really good, because whenever you're hurting, you're just spewing.
You are.
And you're gonna
You are.
hit the people, like you said, your husband and your daughter, like
And you can't take
they
those things
didn't
back.
do that.
Right.
They
Once
didn't
it's
do
said,
it,
it's
so
said.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're feeling that frustration, even if you're not mad at, you might take it out on the wrong person. So I think you have to get that out, because we all have kids,
Right.
and you could be really frustrated, and then you got to go home and you're cooking dinner and you're trying to change the laundry at the same time as keeping
Girl,
the
that's
hamburgers
me every
stirring.
day.
And your daughter comes in and wants to show you a musical or a TikTok, and 10 of them in a row, and you're trying to be, oh, that's cute, oh. You know, but then all of a sudden, you know, you don't want to do that, but you're like, I can't watch it right now. I'm trying to get dinner, I'm trying to get lunch. And so, yeah, you know, I have to have that outlet, because I know one thing my dad always told me, it was just the biggest saying that my dad ever had, was a man has to know his limitations. And that goes in anything at all. You know, it's just like, why go to a bar if you're an alcoholic? I know my limitations. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm an alcoholic, I'm just saying an example. But I myself, you know, I got wackos in my neighborhood, and I know my limitations. So sometimes when things get bad, I have to go inside.
Right.
Because I know, because things are going on in front of my kids, that's when Mama Bear wants to come out. So I have to go in and kind of be like, and I just have to start speaking to the mountain, you know, but we all need outlets. What do you guys use? Oh, God, sorry. No, go ahead. What were you going to say? Finish your thought.
You hit on that really well, because like whenever I was younger, I would always it just, as I was in it, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So like what she was saying, like an alcoholic going to a bar, why would you do that? And I was a teenager who was also hormonal, also just really hurt and all that. And I kept going into situations that were not ideal. They were not very safe, and I was not thinking properly, but I also wasn't taking myself out. And I wish I would have known to do that, and I wish I would have been smarter back then to do that. I know that now.
Well, but that's not on you.
Right.
Because that is on mom and dad. I
Right.
don't know if that's the point you're getting to, because that should have been boundaries they should have set for you, and they weren't.
Exactly.
So that's something you definitely got to take off of you.
Yes.
You know, is those boundaries are our responsibility as parents to say, this, you don't cross this line, or there's consequences, you know. And the consequences, I don't know what, if you got punished, if you ever got busted for doing those things, but I know that you said you shared the verbal and physical. Yeah, so instead of sitting you down and going, this is why you shouldn't be doing this because of this, or you're grounded and we're going to work on this, it was just verbal and whatever. So that didn't help.
Yeah, I know, growing up, I, was evicted, my family was evicted like 3 times, so I take that into, my family life now, and I'm almost cheap, Okay, like I'm cheap with a lot of
Frugal.
stuff.
You're frugal.
Yeah, frugal is a better word.
Like, I think we can all probably speak to this, that we typically will spend more money on our kids even when we don't have money.
Right, yes.
Even when we need things.
Absolutely.
But this is why I don't even have a house yet. I just live in an apartment, but I take kind of what I got from that and what I learned from that into my marriage and my family and my home life. Because I ain't trying to go through that again, so I'm doing what I can to change the
You're
future.
living by your means. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what taught me.
Yeah.
But
like,
don't let
now
that
I
fear
do
stop you.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
no.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
make
I'm
sure, 'cause-
careful.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with being frugal. I think a lot of people live above their means.
Yeah.
You know, they have
Absolutely.
car payment, a house payment, and then they
Yeah.
got a pool and they're going on
I know.
vacation and their credit cards are maxed
Yeah.
out
I
and
know.
you know, and it's like,
I know.
and then all of a sudden it all just, you know, what if you lost your job? How are you going to pay
Right.
that back? And that's
Yeah.
something that, you know, my husband and I talk about. I'm like, you know, we want to get a new car, but I don't want to get a brand new car and I'm stuck with the payment because what if
Yeah.
something like COVID happened again? You know, I mean, I know you don't live in fear, but you got to be wise.
Right.
You know, and so I always pray about it. I'm like, God, is this the best decision for me and my
Mhm.
family? You know, that's,
Yeah.
it's like switching schools with Grace. You know, I can either send her to, you know, her school for free,
Right.
or I can send her to where I want to send her. That's going to cost me a little bit. And so it's just like, God, I want this to be a wise choice.
Yeah,
You know, I don't
yeah.
want to be like, oh my gosh, what did I do after
Right,
a couple of
yeah.
months? And I'm like, broke. You know what I mean?
Right,
So,
yeah. Yeah, I tell my daughter all the time she has no idea how good she has it.
Oh, no.
No idea. Like
I remember when you got evicted because you came to my house.
Yeah, it's the time I lived with you. Yeah.
And didn't have any of your clothes, and you
No.
never missed a day of school.
No.
And you were so mad because you didn't have anything to wear. And I was like, you can have.
I know, 10 years.
She never missed school,
No
and she was so upset
way.
because she didn't have any of her clothes. You didn't even have your backpack, did you?
I don't think so.
Wow.
And so I said, my closet is
Impressive.
yours, and wear whatever you want because I don't want you to miss school. I remember
I
that.
know, yeah. That
She was like my daughter.
I know, I lived with your daughter. She still makes fun of my doll that I kept.
Oh,
I've heard stories about that doll.
she still has it, don't she?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
I
I
do.
feel
we're gonna
like
have
you
her
should
bring it.
be-
We're gonna have show and tell, and she's gonna.
Yeah.
This doll, I remember walking in the room and I thought, Freddie, not Freddie, it wasn't Chucky. It's worse than Chucky.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
She's had it since she was
I know,
like,
2 years old, almost 33 years old, the doll itself. So.
everything else was left in the house, but she had the doll.
I don't know how that happened. I don't know.
But I remember that. I remember my heart going out to you. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like that, you know, you've never missed school. I'm like, whatever you want to wear, I hopefully it fits you, whatever. And you didn't miss. You toughed it out, and I was proud of you. I mean, you kept a good attitude though, honestly. I mean, you didn't come in like, I mean, I knew you were mad, but you were.
Sure. Yeah,
You
I'll
just kept a good
never
attitude.
forget that the way I found out, me and my brother and my sister, we got off on our bus stop, and my mom was sitting in the car at the bus stop, and mind you, our bus stop was like 3 or 4 houses down from our house. So I'm like, okay, where are we going? What's going on?
Yeah.
And she had the back of the truck full, or the back of the car full, you know, what she could grab because they were literally in the process of.
Yeah, they shut the door and wouldn't let her. I
They
remember,
wouldn't.
yeah.
So she
Wow.
just grabbed what she could.
I remember that.
And she told us, and I said, what did I say? I said, this is just a test. I said something along those lines. I just told her, I said, this is just a test in our faith or something. I don't know. And I think that night is when I went to your house. Or
Yeah, your mom brought you over.
Yeah,
I remember. She was like, do you care if Amanda stays there? I was like, no.
No.
No, I didn't know if she was just, you know, she really didn't go into detail. And then I think you shared with
Just
me,
stay
and I was
the
just
night.
like, what? You're not missing school. You've got 10 years of like perfect attendance, like
Yeah,
crazy.
That's crazy.
And
You're always pretty positive though. Like that's
She is.
something
I
that, that's something I really
I
look
think
up to
they
you about.
tend to be more positive.
Mhm.
I have to be sometimes, you know. You force it.
And then I always looked up to you a lot whenever you were my youth leader. I know you said you felt bad, but I always looked up to you because I felt like I could relate to you the most out of all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And not that none of them helped me, because I loved like all.
Oh
of them.
yeah,
I loved
yeah.
everybody.
They all would have went to
But
anywhere
I always
for
felt
you.
like I could relate to you. But
Mhm.
again, I had my wall up, and I
Right.
could never like directly go up. And I wanted to always talk to you, but I never.
Isn't that so
I never
funny?
did
That's
because
so
I was
funny.
always so
That you
afraid
never
to
did.
even like talk to anybody.
I mean, it's like not funny, but it's just
Yeah, it
crazy
is
how like
crazy.
things
And now
work
we're
out.
together.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we've said this before, but like, how long ago was that? How old are you?
Oh my gosh!
29?
I mean, I was.
So-
I mean, that's got to be
Well, I meant
18 years ago.
because
No
actually
kidding.
I had Manny in 02 and I started coming to Acts, and that's when I met you. So
Wow.
02, yeah, because all the youth kids are like,
And
what?
we were all
Manny's
together
graduated?
18 years ago. And
Because
Right,
they were all
into the
there.
aftermath of all that. I
Yeah.
Gosh, though, that's
Yeah.
wild.
She was there when Gracie was
was,
born.
I was there at the very tail end of everything.
Yeah.
When all that was kind of.
Well, share with us how what's your outlet? Like, what do you do when you go through stuff?
I initially prior to learning, which I think a lot of it is about learning. A lot of it is about learning and staying consistent. And gosh, I feel like I have so much I could say right now.
Say it.
One of my outlets that I used to have was I didn't have an outlet. I harnessed so much. I harnessed so much. I kept it in. I didn't talk to people. You know, I was a very bubbly person. People had this perception about me. Well, you know, she never goes through anything or this or that. And it's just because I never wanted anyone else to feel the burdens of what I felt I was going through. And for the longest time too, and you know, maybe one day I'll share a testimony, but for the longest time, I didn't feel like I even had a testimony. I knew that I had hurt in my life, and I knew there were things that I was going through. And you know, I knew there were things that I probably should have let out at certain points, but I just didn't feel that it was notable enough to mention to anyone. Or I always felt like, well, my story is not as bad as theirs, so why even share?
I felt like that.
Why
you
even
know,
share? Like it's
right.
gonna affect anybody.
And as I've gotten older, my biggest outlet now, and I say this with complete genuinity, if that's a word.
That is a word.
It
is
now a word.
Genuinity, is it?
But really, genuinity.
We're making it a word.
I made it up. That means as honest as you can possibly ever be. But now my outlet, I would say, is God. And it's because I think for the longest time, I truly just didn't feel that I had anyone that I wanted to talk to. And it's, again, not that I couldn't talk to my family. Like, my family loves me with everything. And I know without a fraction of a doubt that I could come to them and speak to them about anything. It's just, again, I didn't want to burden people.
Right.
And now...
And I think a lot of people are that way. I think a lot of people hide because they don't want, you know, they don't want to burden anybody, and they don't want people to look at them differently. Like, oh, I thought Sam was so bubbly, but she's really, and I think a lot of people hide things.
I was very scared too, or no, I won't say, I was fearful. I was fearful of judgment that would come based off just the littlest things.
Right.
And looking back at it now, it's like, I wish I would have shared that, or I wish I would have, you know, to either just touch other people or whatever the case might be. But, you know, I just wish I didn't harness so much, because, I don't know, but I at the same time too, I feel like that has, although I wish I didn't harness those things, I feel like as I've grown and matured more, you know, as time has gone on, that's also why I have the level of strength that I feel that I have. Because I do feel that I am a very strong, independent person, independent woman, you know, and I take pride in that, although I don't boast about it. I don't like to be boastful. I know what you're saying. No. But, you know, I would
There's
say
nothing wrong with being proud of yourself.
Yeah. But, you know,
boastful is bad.
Yeah. And I mean, outside of talk, because I talk to God all the time when I'm going through something. And now, granted, initially when I was talking to God, when, you know, my younger self, it would always be more in disparity.
Like,
why? Desperate. Why? You know, or please.
Yeah.
Or, how come this is happening?
I don't understand this.
Yeah.
Oh, been there.
You know, that is not, I can honestly say that that's not the type of conversations that I have now. And, you know, again, I think that just comes with my spiritual maturity and learning. And outside of talking to God, it really is dance and my music. Like, I get into my music so deeply, and I just feel it, and it just gives me
the best feeling.
Like, I can, you know, there's so much music out there, I feel like, for any situation, and I'll just, you know, I'm always trying to look up just good feels and just dancing it out, or just listening to it and really taking in the words and just, you know, letting those emotions kind of flow. Like, that's really just my outlet. And you know, not even that too, because I know, again, and I know I just said this a minute ago, but I know without a fraction of a doubt that God hears me when I talk to him. And I know that because of a personal testimony that has happened with me that, again, I'll share one day. Yeah. But I know that he hears me, so I don't feel like when I talk to him now, my words are going on deaf ears, to where before there was a what if. There was a, you know, are you really hearing me? Are you there? You know, but I know because of things that have happened in my life that's not, you know, it's not just being spoken into thin air, that there have been things that have occurred because he's hearing what I'm saying. Right.
I can testify to that.
I mean, that would be, I would say that's my number one outlet, is talking to God and my dance. And I love my dance. Yeah. So.
And I think that's good that you say talking to God, because I remember a long, long time ago, one of my favorite pastors, Jesse Duplantis, because he was so comical, and he would tell a Bible story, not like read it and preach it, but he would just kind of act out the character sometime, and that always just like got my attention, because I thought, I'm going to put myself in Moses's, you know, and that's kind of what it would have, I'd be like, okay, I can see Moses doing this now, or whoever it was he was talking about. But he was talking about prayer one time, and he was talking about, he said, we should respect God, our Heavenly Father, Jesus, I love you, whatever, however you start your prayer, but he said, just talk. And so he started talking like he talks to God. And I just thought, he's talking to God like a best friend, like a father. And I thought, that's what I want. I want to be able to drive in my car and, God, just look at your beautiful scenery. And that, or just, God, where am I going today? And just being able to hear his voice. And I think that's
well,
good.
and even with a little bit of frustration, because there was a time when I did talk to, earlier on in my, walk, or, as I was getting to know God better, like, my talks with him would be more so like, I don't know how to even, start this. Like, oh, Heavenly Father, please come back. Like, I would literally try to be more spiritual or more religious words. Like, where's my religion dictionary so I know what to say, But now it's to the point where I'm like, gosh dang it, God, I'll be frustrated and share my frustration with him. Like, because let me share this with you. I'm horrible with confrontation. Like, if I get in an argument with someone, I feel like I'm well spoken for the most part, unless I'm in an argument. If I'm in an argument, all my cognitive thoughts go out the window, and I'm just like, I stumble over my words and everything. So when I'm talking to God, like, I am just,
you forget all your points.
Yes,
right off the bat. Yeah, I know.
And I'm just real with him. I'm just. Like, I share my frustration, and he knows, like, I'm like, what I'm trying to say. I can't say it, but you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I need right now, and just, I've come a long way in that, because, that's not what it used to be before. Right. And I don't know, I'm just very thankful for that, because I truly do feel like it's a release for me. So in those situations.
That's so powerful to know that you have that outlet. Like, you can just talk to him like that and be frustrated and talk to him. I think that's so powerful too.
Yeah.
Oh, I joke with God.
And
he laughs on
really,
me.
God?
I'd be like, really? That's fine. No, it'd be like a test, and I'm like, really, God? Okay. I'm going to pass this, God. I think you're trying to show the devil that I'm going to pass this, so I'm going to do it. Because I want you to win this bet, God, but anything else? All hearts clear?
I wanted to add, whenever I go through a really hard time also, I watch videos of testimonies of anything, like a situation that I've been through or that I'm thinking of or going through. On YouTube, there's so many. Like, you can watch marriage testimonies being restored, people, like, how I acted whenever I was younger, people being restored. I mean, it's just a really cool thing to watch.
Anger, anything. I mean, anything that you're dealing with. So
Absolutely.
It's good. Oh, yeah. It's good. Well, I'm very proud of you. Thank you for sharing. We're all proud of you, and we love you, and we're here for you, and we're going to see you go all the way, and pretty soon you're going to say, I don't deal with any of it. It's all gone. So that's our testimony. But I also want to encourage you, find an outlet. If it's writing in a journal, if it's dancing, talking to God, whatever it is, find an outlet. Let us pray for you. If there's something that, you're going through and you would like us to lift you up in prayer, we would love to do that. If you have a testimony you would like to share, again, we would love to share that. Or anything that, you might have a question about, maybe to Rachel, that about her situation that you might be struggling with. And, you can reach out to her, and she will get that message, and she will reach right back out to you. It doesn't have to be where everybody can see it. We will definitely, all you have to do is say, hey, I would like to talk to Rachel, and we will get in contact with you somehow, because that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. So thanks again for watching. God bless.
Dear younger me, where do I start? If I could tell you everything that I have learned so far, then you could be one step ahead.